Greetings and welcome back to my Game Talk. Today I'd like to talk about something you may already know about, the World of Darkness, specifically the World of Darkness MMO. Now, many of you might be familiar with the 2004 game by the now defunct company Troika, Vampire the Masquerade. And that was really unquestionably a brilliant game. They went extinct, unfortunately, Troika, and that was the last we heard of the game. And people have done since a bit of modding and what have you, but this game, Vampire the Masquerade, was just very, very well done. And even now, I think it's still fairly enjoyable to play compared to other games. It's a bit dated in the the Bloodlines specifically. There was one that preceded Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Now, many of you also might know that that story was based on the pen and paper White Wolf publishing company, which has since merged, I believe, with CCP, or it was bought up by them. Anyway, White Wolf, which made games such as Vampire Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and a host of others. These games were role-playing games that focused very much on a kind of dark, gothic setting, modern setting usually. There were medieval versions as well, but mostly modern setting, of very supernatural creatures, fairies, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, sorcerers, things like that. Now, when I first heard about this MMO, I thought, pretty interesting, because since that game came out back in 2004, I've longed for a continuation of it. I mean, I love that game, and I used to play pen and paper Vampire the Masquerade way back in the day when I was younger, and so I just want to offer my thoughts, and I'll be sharing some information and links as well as to this game. This game was announced, I think, even as early as 2009 or 2010, so it's been ongoing. But it's by the same makers as Eve, and there have been a lot of blockades in the road. It seems that they had to get rid of some people working on the project. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but whilst I was initially pretty excited about it, I have to say I'm not that excited now. For one thing, my beef with MMOs is you cannot really focus on detail. I mean, you can in a sense, but I would much, 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 much rather prefer to have a single-player Vampire Masquerades or Redemption, whatever you want to call it, game that focuses on role-playing and detail, the protagonist and his surroundings. That's what I really liked about the original Vampire, and those are the kind of RPGs that I like to play. I mean, the sandbox variety are good, and then you have games more along the lines of, say, Dragon Age, the BioWare style, more limited, but even if it's just a mishmash, you get a whole lot more of the gaming experience from a single-player game where role-playing elements are heavily emphasized and stressed, as opposed to an MMO. I mean, every MMO that I'm familiar with ultimately just boils down to collecting loot and developing your powers and beating bigger and bigger stuff. There are so many different MMOs, but at the end of the day, that is what it comes down to. And I don't find that satisfying, even in a arguably story-weak setting, such as Bethesda Games' Elder Scrolls, where the role-playing elements are there, but you don't have the sort of intensity that you would have maybe with BioWare games. You still have the lore, you still have all of these things, and you have a world to explore for your protagonist. And I just don't see that happening in MMO. So I don't know if this project's ever going to get off the ground, but speaking of Kickstarter, which I've spoken of before, and I spoke briefly to Gopher about it, what I think the perfect Kickstarter project would be Vampire the Masquerade, building upon the traditions of the 2004 Troika game. using a more modern engine, using the resources that are available now, graphics updates, and maybe just refining some things, but something along those lines. The problem is nobody is offering that as a project that they want to start. But I'm fairly convinced that if they were to do so, that the support will be wildly, I think it would be wildly popular, and the support would be very strong. I think they would meet their minimum cost easily and exceed them greatly, perhaps, because whoever it is I end up talking to when it comes to Vampire, I mean, Masquerade's Bloodline, everyone says it was a really good game, and I thought so too. It's just a bit dated. So a continuation in the next few years of that by an indie company. Or what about the people who worked on it originally? Maybe Troika, people coming back together. That's what Obsidian did with regards to the coming game Pillars of Eternity. So you do, in fact, have that option with Kickstarter. I wish that they would, someone would come up with the idea and then start the project. The gods know, if I were a developer and had the skills, I'd probably start a Kickstarter project along those lines, but that's neither here nor there. The MMO, though, I'm a little less excited about. I might try it out if and when it comes out. I just don't know when it's going to come out. Yeah, that's not clear. And it seems they've had a lot of stopgaps, and they're just not moving ahead very quickly with it, so we'll have to see. Anyway, I just thought, in case you were not aware of this coming MMO, mention it. The World of Darkness, Vampire MMO, and no, it won't be like Twilight, I don't think. Very, very unlikely. But, yeah, oh, and, well, let me at least read off some of the things that they claim will be in the MMO. The claim, or the features, the facts, if you will. So, player-driven game, lots of social, political elements, themes, mystery, romance, power, danger. Very much an adult game, so I imagine sex and violence. For the time being, vampires are the only supernatural characters that are planned. If more content's added later, maybe some other kinds of supernatural beings will be added. Who knows? For now, I think it's going to be, or their plans for NPCs. A lot of customization rather, and aesthetics. With regards to the characters, I think that's going to be big. I mean, that was always kind of a thing in the pen and paper games. This idea, the imagery you had in your head. Accessibility, they claim it's going to be equally accessible for hardcore casual gamers. And they say that they're going to be, it's going to be a three ways of playing the game. You can do it sandbox, theme park, or coffee shop, which is a social way of playing it, apparently. And they're all kind of interconnected. The game is not going to be that combat intensive, so I wonder how they're going to manage that, unless you really want it to be. A lot of political maneuvering, factions, territories, big part. For those who are interested, there are going to be gay clubs. Okay. There will be a PvP mode as well. And of course, the disciplines, if you're familiar with vampiric disciplines from World of Darkness, there's that. And there's only going to be a night cycle. There's no day. Well, there's no cycle. It's just going to be night, so don't have to worry about the sun, which is kind of, would have been cool if you had to deal with that. And I think you start as a human being. So that's some of the background information. And to my knowledge, there's no ETA on this, but I will provide a link to the game trailer. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later in Mass Effect, probably. Bye-bye.